Boardroom to Battlefield is a concept that my brother and I came up with. We always knew that the leadership and team building that goes on in Special Operations Unit has a place out here in the private sector. And after leaving the military, we had a desire to put together a program that would take executives and their staff and take them out of their comfort zone, out of the boardroom, and put them in, quote unquote, a battlefield. Integrate weapons, integrate driving, integrate team building and individual confidence building things that would help their team overall. And also share the knowledge from battlefield experience, from realistic high-risk training experience that could correlate back into their organizations to ultimately help them increase their bottom line. I think there's many commonalities that transcend all boundaries when it comes to leadership and team building, especially when you're talking about elite type organizations. And I don't say the word elite in an elitist sense. It's meant to be that way because you're putting together a team of rock stars. You're putting together teams of A-type personalities that were driven and motivated. And there's a really big misconception whenever it comes to leading A-type personalities. A lot of people automatically assume that you have driven people, A-types, they need very little leadership because they're going to go and do their own thing, and that's a true misconception. They actually require more leadership than those that don't have that type of personality because they're like racehorses, and you want to treat them that way, but you got to make sure that their energy is going in the right direction. Everything's about your culture, and it's a culture of trust that has to be fostered, and it begins at the beginning, and you have to begin with the end in mind. There's a lot of concepts that don't come from business schools. They come from experience. Everything that we do during the experience, it's not a training course, it's not a class, it's not a course, it's an experience. With the end state being in mind that you and your team leave here different than when you came. So as an individual and as a team, everything that we do, there's a reason behind. There's a purpose for every event. There's a purpose for things that we plan in the middle of events, and what appears on the outside to be a mistake or something that should have gone better, should have gone different. What they find out on the backside is that it was by design. One thing we do with our customers is we take the time to get to know them, understand what their strengths, their weaknesses are, what their end state is, the time they have available, the level of leadership that the folks have that are coming here. Do you have young leaders? Do you have old seasoned leaders? What do you want to walk away from this experience with? And then we develop a customized plan and tailor it to fit exactly your needs, time length. The biggest thing about developing a customized plan is to maximize the customer's return on investment. There's many corporations in place that have what we consider to be canned courses. They're 5 days long, they're 3 days long, and it doesn't matter who comes to attend them, everyone's going to get the same thing. And what happens, generally speaking, is if you go to a canned course, you're almost guaranteed that 60% of what you're going to hear is something that you've heard before. So you're really paying for the 40%. So why should a client pay 100% and receive only 40%? That being said, when we customize, we do our best to guarantee that we end up somewhere between the 80 and 90% of what you've never heard, and we reinforce the other 10% that you have heard. But I can also guarantee you that that other 10% is going to come at you with a totally different twist than it's been presented in the past. The biggest thing that you find in the corporate culture is that people are afraid to have hard conversations because they're uncomfortable. Becoming comfortable being uncomfortable. And that takes discipline, and it takes a devotion to the greater good, not one individual. These are disciplines and these are truths that you'll find throughout Special Operations Forces, and they do and will apply in any executive environment. They said, you know what? We can do this. This makes sense to us. Everything that you've talked about applies to our environment and the culture that we want to foster. And so that's what we help them do. We help them understand what that culture looks like. We help them understand the discipline and desire required from the leadership team and the commitment. And then we hope that they leave here and they have the courage to go back to their corporations and implement these things. And we feel certain that they will.